Here we are, Bethany and Lena, with You Are Your Child's Pancreas, coming to you from our backyard. And our topic today is MDI versus a pump, especially the Tandem Tslim X2, which Miss Lena wears along with her Dexcom G7. But here, I'll show you her pump. It's right there.
And my site.
Fusion site and her little site hero patch on her last pump site, or the pump site before that. Okay, so we have an interesting comparison with this because I'm on MDI, being newly diagnosed also, type 1. Is that I'm showing my random wrong forearm. There it is. I have my G7 15 day, and then I'm on MDI. But you know what? I might stay on MDI, which I know people think is crazy now. Pump versus multiple daily injections. Most people just can't imagine staying on multiple daily injections. And I do realize that I'm only a month and a half into diagnosis, and I will probably, feel different at different times. But first, Lena, what do you remember about being on MDI, and what did you like or not like?
I didn't like the needles going.
Yes, of course. The pokies, we used to call them.
But I do like setting the bogies up, which is fun to do.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? You talking about the clicks?
Yeah, and like setting it up.
Okay, so Lena was very tough about the pokies. It was not that traumatic. However, it was so much work to manage her diabetes, being at the time 5 years old and now 6. Make sure you don't kick that, honey. Because what I find is that if you are going to be on MDI, you have to alter food choices much more than you do on a pump. So, for example, we would have to plan out what she was going to eat for a meal, and then you have very little recourse. Like if she changed her mind about what she wanted to eat, it was even more stressful to find a replacement and feel like there was no wiggle room. Like if you didn't replace it with exactly the right number of grams, then you don't have the luxury of things like with the pump, the basal will shut off. And plus you can see the numbers. Now I know there's the InPen now that tells you how much insulin is on board still. But let's say she wanted a sandwich, I made a sandwich, we planned the 30 grams of carbs, we pre-bolused her, and then she's like, I don't like the sandwich. So then I'm roughly trying to find something that's 30 grams, and I'm like, here, have a little bit of rice with some chicken on it from last night. I can be roughly with 30 grams, and then if she goes low, after that replacement, I know the basal is going to shut off. I can look at how much insulin is on board and say, okay, is this going to round out just fine with the basal being off for a few minutes? Or does she need more carbs? And we can kind of just keep shooting from the hip as we go. Or maybe I gave you too much rice and chicken and it was more than the 30-gram sandwich, and then we say, oh, she's headed up, let's give her a few more carbs because that was obviously more. Or the control IQ on the pump will naturally start making corrections if we got that wrong. But on MDI, it's a lot harder to figure out what kind of correction in sugar or insulin is needed. And you have to potentially give another shot, which Lena was so tough with the pokies. But do you remember you usually wanted them on your leg or your kind of upper butt? Yeah. And so pre-meal often made it so we needed to go over to the couch and lie down and, find a spot and give her a shot, which of course she wasn't going to like. Or sometimes we would go into a bathroom or something. It was a much bigger ordeal. And now, I don't even have to touch the pump itself. I can control it from my phone and be like, oh, you changed your mind? You want, a third piece of that? Okay, boop, boop, boop. And in it goes, right?
Tells the pump what to do.
Yep. So what do we call it? Bebop? Bebop you?
Bebop.
Is that's what we would do for the
And Mom,
punching it in?
what
Yeah.
we called for the pokies?
Yeah.
Kabunga. Remember?
Oh yeah, you make it. Yeah, we made up all kinds of terms, and we still say ka-chow when we're getting ready to like do an insertion site or the
We should
Dexcom.
say kabunga.
Kabunga. Yeah, that's your newest term. But now, so I would say there's no, hands down, the pump relieves a lot of stress about getting the food just right. Also, it relieves me overnight because it's a lot easier to make corrections overnight. Same deal without having to wake you up. Now, I do sometimes give her juice in the night, of course, if she's going low. But
And all she needs to do is do one drop in my mouth.
If she doesn't respond, I get a little bit of juice in the straw, put it in your mouth and let it go. And so some juice will like dribble into your mouth in your sleep and you're like, and then she'll just go get like ready for the straw.
And then
But you know what was sad? I don't remember if I told you this. The other night, I could not get her down. It was just like all the corrections and everything were high. And I finally thought, okay, I'm pretty sure this site had failed because we took like a really long bath and we were already 2 days into the site. And so I was kind of wrestling around next to you in bed getting ready to do a site change. She partially woke up enough to go like for juice, but instead I had to give you a pokey of a new site. That was sad. I was like, sorry, it's not for juice, honey. Anyway, that brings me to another, the downside though of the pump, is I would say you're so much at the mercy of the sites lasting, because the moment they fail, there's no long-acting insulin, right? There's no baseline. So once you're through the honeymoon period, as soon as you're missing that basal, she's over 200 in, seems like minutes. And if that's anywhere near a meal, then of course we have to wait and be like, is that because of some other reason you're high, or is it the site? And then we need to redo the site, which involves a lot more stuff than a pen and a needle. But the thing is, food-wise, it's so much easier. We try to make good food choices, not like super low carb, but not just like eating high carb all the time either. And I don't let any of my children eat dessert all the time. And I'm certainly not going to be giving Lena dessert all the time. But that being said, you can decide to have a snack. Oh, I know we had lunch a little bit ago, but can I have some peanut butter bites? When you're on MDI, if you're going over that 15-gram limit, or even I would say 10 grams seems to affect it pretty dramatically, it's too much for the Lantus or the other long-acting insulin to overcome that snack. So then you've got to decide, do I really want another pokey, another insulin shot to have a snack?
It's kabunga.
Or kabunga.
Kabunga.
Okay. Whereas with the pump, of course, at any moment we can say, oh, can I eat that, Mom? Sure. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Bebop you. Do I have to wait? Okay. We set a timer enough, depending if a pre-bolus is super necessary. But then we're done, which is enough, right? That's already enough thought. And so I'm so thankful for the pump for her, even with the downsides sometimes of it. But that brings me to myself. I don't mind needles. Not like I like it or something, but it's just no big deal. And also, I'm not in like a professional space all the time. In fact, I am very rarely in a professional space as a stay-at-home mom and self-employed person. So it's no problem to, stab myself anywhere and it doesn't really make a scene or matter. And unlike a growing 6-year-old, I don't need to have a snack or a food change like at any moment that requires another shot. And if I do, I'll take another shot. But most of the time, if I want a snack that I didn't plan on, it makes me think about, well, do I even need the snack? Do I feel like finding the needle and insulin pen, or really am I just fine? Now that's because, I'm a middle-aged mom trying to lose my mom belly still and whatever. It's a totally different stage of life, right? And my carb needs and my total calorie intake and all of that is going to be completely different. So for me so far, I have been quite happy on MDI, and I wouldn't at this point look forward to the whole sort of infrastructure of a pump and setting that up. And I also don't necessarily want to wear something else besides the Dexcom. But for Lena, I guess we need to ask you, how much do you mind the pump and tube? I mean, knowing you have to have insulin one way or another, obviously.
It's not bad. It doesn't hurt a lot, but sometimes it just goes in and it hurts a lot.
When you're receiving a bolus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it gets stuck on the railing on the deck, which I go down fast, it might just go.
But you stopped before it ripped out. Was that yesterday? Amazingly, we have very active lives. Lena has 5 brothers, and railings, trampolines, doorknobs, lots of things, rough housing in general. But only twice in almost a year on the pump has it, a mishap like that caused the site to come off or come loose.
Remember the time where I won't go down? I was in the 40s. In the I was really high.
When you were sick?
We would have to go to the library or to the store to get needles for me. Remember that?
Oh, yes. She did have a pump failure. We were doing just one overnight, 2 hours away from home. And silly mom was feeling a little overconfident, and I had a spare site and I had some things, but I didn't have enough insulin to completely refill a cartridge and tubing. And she had this occlusion in the site. Oh, and it was a brand new site. And I'm like, oh, we're going to make it one night. Oh, silly mama. So I ended up having to get a prescription ordered to a pharmacy nearby just to get a pen to get us through. And so now, bonus, since I always have needles and insulin with me, we always have backup. But I do sometimes miss the Lantus with Lena, that long-acting, because of the instant problem of the pump failure. However, do you miss Lantus?
Nope.
So Lena, I can finally commiserate with all the sadness over the burning of long-acting Lantus. But, I give it to myself and I'm like, ow! And then I move on with life, and I'm really glad for what it does. So, there's so many choices in the matter. So sort of the crisis of type 1, changing changing a lot of things about food has also not been the same, because I was on an extreme keto diet trying to control my blood sugar before this. So I'm so used to not being able to eat what everybody else is eating, or eat when I want to eat or what I want to eat, that actually I have a lot more freedom just being on insulin at all. So, I realize this is just completely different for everybody. Your food choices, your lifestyle, the privacy or not, how much you like or dislike needles, how much, you want to be able to eat whenever you want to eat and not bother with it. So many things to consider. But for now, my endocrinologist was just saying at my next appointment, we can talk about pumps. But honestly, I think I might be one of those oddballs out there who's still picking MDI for a while. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but right now, happily on a pump for this one, and happily MDI for me. Anything else to add, Lena?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, well, happy summer, everyone.